Jennifer talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to just pull up a little bit of research in terms of why might be hard for EAL students. We always talk about the language and immediately we think about vocabulary, but recently we've read a few things about syntax and grammar, and I think it's those pieces that are difficult for kids in some ways. I think vocabulary, although it is somewhat abstract, we maybe can teach that a little bit more easily. The syntax and grammar, maybe not as easily. We have to think through it ourselves. And of course, same with there's a cultural schema or background information. If we're talking about things that kids don't know much about, then maybe that's causing some issues as well. So obviously, I'm not telling you anything you don't know here. Lots of content area, specific language like a quadrilateral, isosceles, integers, even words like addition, subtraction versus, plus, minus, those things, even though they may be somewhat similar, kids don't necessarily have all that language. And then technical language that we earlier, things like product, table, base, place, words that have meanings that are different outside of math. And then lots of tier 2 words, so explain or describe or investigate, and those are also somewhat abstract for kids. So sometimes you need to, make sure that they know what those mean and what to do with those words when that comes into a question. Just wanted to give you an example of some of the text structures that might be difficult for kids. After the webinar, I'm going to send you a chapter from this book, Big Ideas for Expanding Minds, and it talks all about math instruction. But one of the things they talk about is the grammar, so noun phrases, relative clauses, prepositional phrases, and it's a very academic language. We don't talk that way for the most part, so it's very formal language that we use in math. So to give you just a little bit of an example, and these are from that chapter. So Sam bought 3 bags of oranges with 7 oranges in each bag. How many did he buy? So what might be challenging for kids? So it's past tense, but the form is different based on whether or not it's an affirmative sentence or a question. So that might be challenging for kids. Here's another example. It looks pretty straightforward at first, but the last sentence, the question, which of the following is the best estimate for the total number of student speeches that could be given in a 2-hour class? What might be challenging about that sentence for kids? It's very long. Yeah, that's a good point. So could is really the passive version of to give a speech. So if students don't know that to give a speech goes together, they may not understand could be given. So they have to kind of understand what are we looking for when we use the phrase best estimate. So it's basically the most reasonable answer. And there's the superlative form in there, so maybe they don't know best or better. So there's lots of potential stumbling blocks within that question that is somewhat straightforward for us. So I think, people who are outside of the content area of English as an additional language, I've heard Ed Sykes say, they just need more vocabulary. Yep, they do, and that will help, but that may not resolve all of the challenges that they're having. So that's important to keep in. If they probably can read the numbers, like you're thinking, the words might be more easy. And this one I don't think is any news to you, just the idea that if students, let's say you're talking about hockey, minutes in a period, or maybe you're talking about skiing, or even winter, temperature, degrees, if students don't have a lot of experience with those ideas, then the whole question is going to be even more challenging for them to grasp. So those are just a few things that might make math difficult for kids.